All right, this will be part 3. I'm talking to Jackson on the phone, a student at Louisiana State University, and giving examples of mutations being beneficial, and you talk about a family in Italy, so that has to do with their vision. Was this a mutation, or what was it?
Okay, so this was another one I think we might have talked about on the phone. It's called apolipoprotein A1. I think they shorten it to A1 Milan because it's in the family Milan.
Right.
And what it does is it allows them to ingest more cholesterol without getting all the negative side effects that come with that. For example, heart disease. And so this was just another example, which we talked about with LRP5, of beneficial mutations in humans. And so I'm just pointing out that we agree that these these beneficial mutations do exist. And what I also want to point out was that I agree with you in saying that they are, I guess, contextually beneficial. Because if you look at, an African elephant, and elephants have 38 copies of the mutation, or 38 copies of a gene called, P38, I think it is. It's a tumor suppressor gene.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's great for them in Africa where, there's a lot of sun, and they also have they have reduced hair and, all these other things that help them survive in Africa. Well, that's great for them there, but if you were to drop a bunch of elephants in Antarctica, well, it wouldn't help them there. But that's the point. All mutations are contextually important. They're important to the organism in such and such environment, but that's how evolution works. It works on the
No, slow down. No. Jackson, that's not how evolution works. That is an example, I think, of the creator designing the creatures to survive in a variety of environments. General Motors puts a heater and an air conditioner in lots of their cars. What does that prove? Well, they're planning ahead. They don't know if it's going to a cold climate or a warm climate, so let's give them both. So if the designer gave the creatures an incredibly complex genetic code that is able to allow some of the offspring to survive in a wide range of environments, that's not evolution. That's intelligent design. That's planning ahead. That's an example of creation. Now you said we agree that beneficial mutations exist. Let me correct the record on that. I don't know that we agree on that or not. I think the examples you've given may be beneficial in one context, but may be detrimental. Maybe that same mutation causes a problem. I don't know. I don't think it's been studied enough, but that little minor variation you talk about, like the African elephants with less hair on them, okay, that may be from a mutation, it may be from a disease, it may be, who knows, maybe something lost in the gene code. But going from lots of hair to little hair is losing, not gaining. And it might be beneficial if it's hot or something, but it may, like you said, drop them off in Antarctica, they wouldn't survive. So I'm not going to go on record as saying I agree with you that all mutations or any mutations have been proven to be beneficial. There are some that are still questionable, and the jury's still out. Some people want there to be beneficial mutations, but Jackson, you would need trillions of them for your theory to work. Trillions. And more than that. And the examples you're giving, I think, are pretty questionable, and they're still the same kind of creature. To me, you haven't given any examples of any evolution at all.
Okay, I guess I agree that, I haven't given examples of evolution because, I gave you a definition of evolution earlier, but you said that was microevolution, which you said you do agree to. You said you do agree that microevolution happens. And so, again, I think there's kind of a misunderstanding is that all mutations, all organisms are meant to live in their own environment. They are naturally selected. They go through mutations and speciation in their own environment. They're not selected based upon what happens on the other side of the planet. Like African elephants, for instance, they're not selected based on what happens in Antarctica. They're selected, and they have mutations, and they go through speciation and whatnot based on what's in their own environment. And so that's the important distinction here, is that these mutations are beneficial, but they're only contextually beneficial. It's not about whether an elephant can survive in Antarctica or whether it can survive in Africa. It's about they survive in Africa because that's where they went through these processes. They went through mutations and natural selection there in Africa, and that's the important point.
Well, we don't know that story's true. I mean, that's the story they give. Could it be that they live in Africa and India, the two different types of elephants that still live, as opposed to mammoth and mastodon, which probably are in the same family? Maybe that's where they spread out from Noah's Ark, had offspring. Some of them moved north and ended up dying because it got too cold. Some of them moved south and survived. There's many ways the story could be told. It is not evidence that evolution is the only answer, the only story that matches. The fact is, there are African elephants, and they have bigger ears. And there are Asian elephants that have smaller ears. Now, whether they can interbreed or not, I don't know. But I think to a 5-year-old, it's still an elephant. It's the same kind of animal. They may have diversified to where they can no longer interbreed, but it's not evidence that that's where they evolved. These mutations caused these changes in that area because of the climate or diet or whatever. No, not at all evidence of that. It could just as easily be this is where they settled in from getting off of Noah's Ark 4,400 years ago. An elephant is incredibly complicated. To get an elephant from a single-celled organism would be a real miracle. For it to happen by chance, I think it's much more common sense to say, wow, this thing must have been designed by a really smart designer. But there are some people who don't like the idea of there being a God because they're afraid he might have some rules. You know, thou shalt not. And they don't want those rules, so they will deny the obvious, say there's a creator, to really avoid accountability to him. I don't know you at all, Jackson. I've never met you, but I don't know, and you don't have to answer this, but I would predict, if we dig deep enough, you really don't want there to be a creator to tell you what to do. You like this evolution theory. It gives you freedom from God.
Well, personally, whether or not God exists is besides the point. God could have, as there are many, many, many Christians who accept that evolution happens, and
hang on, Jackson. I want to object for a minute. You say there are many Christians that accept that evolution happened. I object to the word accept. That's a slanted journalism way of saying this. I would say there are many Christians who believe that evolution happened.
We can say believe. We can say believe. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. It's something you don't know that it happened. You've never seen a dog produce a non-dog, and neither has anybody else. You believe.
That's not what evolution requires, but
well, yeah, it is. No, just a minute now. Do you believe dogs came from something that was non-dog?
The way it works is that it's a whole bunch of incremental steps, and with every generation that produces can reproduce with each juxtaposed generation.
Correct.
So every organism is unless you're talking about plants and things get weird.
All right. Well,
but for animals, if we're talking about animals, then yes, every organism is still the same species while they're evolving, but are passing down traits or whatever. We don't have to use the word evolution, but while they're evolving, but they are all still of the same species, and they can all still interbreed. So they are the same species while they're going, but it's only in retrospect that we can say this is where such and such new species has arisen. We can't really say that while we're watching the generations go by. It's only once we look back we can say, oh, well, hey, these dogs or these aren't the same species of dogs as these later dogs.
So, well, that's a long way of saying, I think you said, yes, you do believe at some point back in time it was a non-dog. Something that would not be considered a dog did give rise to something.
They are ultimately descended from non-dogs, correct.
Okay, and ultimately descended from a single-celled organism. Would you say that?
That's probably true.
Okay.
But I'm not saying it with any certainty.
Good, because you shouldn't. That's a religion, and you're welcome to believe that. But it's not science, and I object to having that taught to all the kids like it is part of science. That should be in a religion class at LSU, not in a science class. They're wasting classroom time. to teach that as part of science. It should be in a world religions class. Now, I'm out of time here. Let me give you, you mentioned polyploidy, and so I called up a picture just real quick on Google of a polyploid strawberry, which is, I think, the example that I gave you before when we talked and before we agreed to record. Polyploid means it has double, and some even have triple, the number of chromosomes. Okay, this happens. The polyploid fruit, in the case of the strawberry, is nearly double the size, or triple the size maybe. It has twice as many chromosomes. Now, and it's much bigger. Here are the problems with polyploid. A, it is taking a phenomenally complex genetic code and doubling it. It's an exact duplicate of the original code, so no new information is added. B, the offspring of these are nearly always sterile. Seedless watermelons might be an example, or seedless strawberries, if such a thing exists. Seedless grapes. Those are things that...
No. Polyploidy results is the reason for a lot of the food, the vegetables and fruits that we eat today.
Correct.
They're not sterile. They're used to grow more generations.
Correct. But is it beneficial for the strawberry to not have any seeds now?
Well, I mean, that's different from, a strawberry with seeds is different from polyploidy in general.
Well, are there any polyploid organisms or triploid? I'm looking at Google now. I just typed in polyploid.
Okay.
Are there any that would survive in nature without babysitting them, and that would then take over the population where all the strawberries are polyploid? And I can answer the question saying no. There are no examples of that.
I work for a mammologist, and so botany is really not my field, but I find it hard to believe that there are no plants in nature that don't survive polyploidy without human interaction. Let's see if going to Wikipedia.
I'll tell you what.
Because like I said,
why don't you hang on? Let's continue this conversation on another day, and you get really prepared and get some specific examples of any animal producing a different, not a story like it might have happened over billions of years. I mean a real example. Here's where we saw it happen.
Okay.
And I'd like to see that. Yeah, I apologize. I'm out of time. It's been an hour and a half. Sorry about that. But and this is kind of impromptu. But thank you so much for doing this, A. And you tell your university I would love to come. You get every professor from every discipline that you think applies here, and let's all go same time. I get half the time, and we discuss one topic at a time, and we can videotape it, and I can sell copies of the tape, and they can sell copies of the tape. No royalties to anybody else. All participants in the debate have 100% rights to use it as they see fit. Because I don't want to sell a video and have to remember to send somebody 30 cents. Okay.
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 I will consider that. Okay.
Yeah, please count me in on that. And if you keep studying, when you get to the top of the mountain of truth, you could be an independent Baptist, born-again Christian like me. Hey,
all right, I will consider that.
Please do. And if you get to Lenox, Alabama, please stop and visit. We are building a Christian camp here, Dinosaur Adventureland, and we can sit and hash all these things out and get it live on the camera side by side. And you can give me all your evidence for evolution. You're invited.
If you ever come to Baton Rouge, essentially the same applies. I don't have a park though, but I'll be in Baton Rouge.
Okay, well, I drove right through there 4 days ago, and okay, thank you so much. And I'm going to post these on Kent Hovind Official. You can tell folks to tune in, and then they can give you advice on how you would sharpen your arguments. And let's do this again sometime. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jackson.
Nice
I got to go. All right, appreciate it. Right, bye bye.
All right, goodbye.
All right, folks, that was an impromptu call. I had other things planned for the day, but an hour and a half nearly of discussion with this college student. I pray God will get a hold of him. Got to go. But if you have any questions on creation, evolution, give me a call, 855-BIG-DINO. If you're being taught this kind of stuff and it's harming your faith in God's Word, as it will, or causing you to doubt your faith, well, then you need to watch my video series, especially number 4. If I did not get Oh, I don't have it here. I did not get Jackson's address or contact info, but I would, Jackson, if you watch this, I'll be glad to send you my seminar series free of charge. Call back on my number. We've already hung up, and I will send you my video series, and you can watch it for yourself. Thank you so much. I got to go. Bye.